I missed my whole intro. What happened here? I didn't dance to it. I didn't groove to it. I can't hear it again.
This is the Brain Truth with Allison Jordan.
Hear my intro.
Prepare.
This intro is
Renew.
produced by the Jesse
Reclaim.
Saunders,
Now your
of
host,
house music,
Allison Jordan.
and it's gonna be a single. Oh! Can y'all imagine that? Oh. All right, guys. How you guys doing? We're at 1.3 for the Brain Truth on intellectualradio.com and iHeart Station. I'm so happy to be here. I've got some incredible guests, but before we start, I have to give a shout out to my sponsors because I got to pay. You know, Earl's over here. He got a hat on today and there's a lot of stuff going on with Earl today. I don't know what's going on. I'm hot, he cold, whatever. So Dr. Rita Lifestyles, Gemini Labs, who are partnered with Swabs and Swirl, a company that I founded with the Dr. Rita McGuire, who's here. And we all got our COVID rapid tests tonight so we can kiss each other freely. Pretty 1-2 Cosmetics, NAMI South Suburbs, Patch Party Club, Brain Truth, and Wakana, which we're going to talk about tonight. Epic Arts and Entertainment, NAMI Illinois, and D Champs. Woo! So I'm Allison Jordan, your host. This is The Brain Truth, where we have authentic conversations about mental health and work to repair, renew, and reclaim. And the most important part of it all is we talk about the brain. So I want to read a disclosure for you guys because it's very important that, you know, I think last week we had introduced the Brain Gang. And that was all my little funky, smart, gorgeous team from the Brain Truth. And we talked about a lot of stuff, and we have to make sure that we are covering ourselves because we are really here to inform, but there's some things that we just have to make sure that we say. So let me find a little disclaimer. Dr. Gettings read it last week. I got to read it this week. But before I get to that, I want you to know that we're here basically to talk about my journey, my life. This is about what I went through a year ago with my own brain truth moment. If you guys are just tuning in for the first time, the very first show I talked about my stint in a mental hospital and my diagnosis of PTSD, social anxiety, panic disorder, depression, and social anxiety. So I'm a little better now, but there's no cure. And I guess I want to speak for you guys, but we're going to get into that for mental health. But you do learn how to cope. So I do have my coping mechanism along with some other stuff we're going to talk about today. Also, we want you guys to call in at some point in the show. That number is, I always give the number out wrong, so I'm going to give it right today. The number is 708-223-8953, 708-223-8953. So we're going to have a segment where we're going to call in. So before we get started, I have to state the following disclaimer. Although we will cover very useful and vital information, please note that this broadcast is for informational and educational purposes only. This radio broadcast does not serve the purpose of providing medical treatment or therapy services, diagnosis, prevention, or cure for any physical, mental, or emotional issue, disease, or condition. As part of our audience, you agree and acknowledge that myself and my guests are not providing medical treatment. Always seek the advice of your own medical provider and or mental health provider regarding any questions or concerns you have about your specific health or any medications, herbs, or supplements you are currently taking. Do not disregard medical advice or delay seeking medical advice because of information you hear this evening. We will provide resources that can be utilized for all of our listeners to seek professional treatment. As a member of our audience, you agree that myself and our guests do not assume liability or any physical or mental disease, condition, or issue, or any other type of loss or damage due to any information shared on our broadcast. Okay? Yay! Let's get into it. So today we're going to be talking about CBD and CBT. CBD and CBT. What is that? Let's define it. So we have Dr. Rita McGuire. She's part of our Brain Gang crew. She is an OBGYN. She co-founds Wakana, which we're going to talk about. She is now certified as a trichologist. Did I say that right? Trichologist. Woo, we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to turn it over to you. You introduce yourself, and I'm going to introduce Sandra, who is so funny because when we first started talking to Sandra during the brain gang, Rita goes, Dr. Rita said, how? Oh, I didn't know you knew her. I didn't know you knew. I'm like, I didn't know her. You introduced me to her. And I'm like, what? But because you guys, the energy and the vibration of the brain gang and the commonality and the passion that we all have to be in the space of mental health and mental healing and mental wellness, it's like we're sisters. It's like I'm getting chills. Oh my God. It's like God birthed us to be in this family, in this community. You guys agree?
Yes,
like, it's like we know each other for real. Like when she came in and hugged me, I'm like, why my sister hugging me? Why, I just saw you. Nope, I just never seen her.
We just met
till today, but we met and we are all part of the team. So I want to start with Sandra, who is a licensed therapist. And she is also the owner of Tranquil Journey, which is beautiful. I went to see her beautiful practice in Homewood, in Flossmoor, Illinois, and just fabulous. It felt tranquil. Anybody that comes there is looking for mental wellness, they get it walking in the door. So tell us a little bit about what you do quickly, and then you tell us about a little bit about what you do quickly, and then we're going to start talking about your own journey in mental health. How's that? Okay, let's go. Sandra, you're first.
All right. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in the field for 30 years. I graduated from Syracuse University.
Talk into it, into the mic,
30
all the way in.
All the way in.
Yep.
So can you hear me now? Is that
yes,
better?
perfect.
Okay. 30 years in the field, graduated from Syracuse University with my master's in social work, and have been in the field, done everything you think a social worker could possibly do. I've probably done. And then about 5 years ago, I decided I wanted to do therapy and help people in the way that I want to help people.
Okay.
I didn't want to be boxed in. And so I opened my own private practice. And then this past March, I expanded to a group practice called Tranquil Journey in Flossmoor. And we service all kinds of populations, every population, age group. So, we just wanted to meet every need.
So how many therapists are in your
right
practice?
now? I have 5 therapists and 2 interns.
That's a lot.
Just since March.
And so quick. So tell me the difference between a therapist and a psychiatrist in the quick version.
Okay. So a therapist can be a licensed clinical social worker, a licensed clinical counselor, or a psychologist. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor.
Right.
So they're the ones that would prescribe medication.
Yeah.
So we don't prescribe medication. We just do the treatment side of things.
And
But
that's
we do work real
cognitive,
closely.
behavioral. So what do you personally do? Because I was doing EMDR.
Okay.
And are you licensed in that?
I am not licensed in EMDR. I use a eclectic approach in terms of I kind of meet clients where they're at. And so I'm really creative about interventions. I think people should be able to learn hands-on. And so I kind of pull from a lot of different theoretical perspectives. Yes, I use CBD, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's about, training your mind to think a different way.
Right.
There's dialectical behavioral therapy, which is the same kind of thing. You have coping skills along with that. So we kind of utilize all of those techniques and kind of I've been really watching how my clients progress and creating new and innovative interventions.
Yeah, she showed me a little something in her office today with some bricks. I don't want to go into it, but if you guys are looking for a really incredible marriage therapy and relationship therapy, I suggest you all give her a call. And all of the Brain Gang people can be reached on the website, thebraintruth.com. That's thebraintruth.com. You just click under their picture. You can connect directly to her, but get y'all some good old therapy with this beautiful woman in Tranquil Journey in Flossmoor. Okay, Dr. Rita. Okay, wait a second. Hold on. I've known Dr. Rita since when I was 5, she was 100. No, I'm kidding.
That's how she's going to do me.
That's how I was younger. Anyway, this is my big sister. Anyway, she is an incredible doctor. When I was married, as some of you guys know, I was married to Craig Hodges. And I'm going to tell on myself, but I went to her. She was my OB-GYN. I can't even imagine her being my OB-GYN right now. I'd be like, ugh, girl, what are we doing down there? But anyway, she was my OB-GYN. And I remember I had like a little pimple or a little bump down there. And I was like, what is it? What is it? I'm kicking his butt. She was like, it's nothing. And I kept like asking, and she goes, do you want it to be something, Allison? Do you want it to be something? And I'm like, no. I had already gone off on him like 100 times. Say something. But anyway,
nothing.
It was nothing. But she's an incredible doctor. She's I'm cry every episode, but I just want to publicly tell you that I love you and I thank you for. I went back over our text messages last night, and I was texting her a lot when I was going through my journey early on in the year. I know she was having babies in her hand because she delivers them while she was texting me with slime probably on your hands because I was texting her all kinds of times of the night. So I just want to thank you for giving of yourself so freely. She was stopping, bringing me stuff and just checking on me. And I just want to say thank you because it really was part of my healing journey. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you. But go on. What
I
you
love
do.
you so much. I love you so much. So this is truly an honor to be here. I'm going to cry. I'm an OB-GYN of 30 years, and 4.5 years ago, I got into the CBD industry, cannabis industry. And I've really been that physician that if you come to me and want to take an herb or have an alternative that you want to try for fibroids or menopause, I've always been open.
Yeah.
And so I was open to CBD and the industry. And so we're going to talk about how CBD can assist with mental wellness. But I'm just so honored to be here and to be a part of your journey, and love you.
And you are, tell me what a trichology is quickly. Trichology. Did I say it right?
So trichology. I am a certified trichology instructor. Trichology is the study of the scalp, diseases of the scalp and the hair. And we truly are in another pandemic, and that is hair loss. Many African-American women, especially, are losing their hair. They're losing their hair because of traction, because of weaves and wigs that we're wearing. They're losing their hair because of the time of the stage they're in. They're menopause. They're losing their hair because of stress, anxiety. They're losing their hair because of nutritional deficiencies. So I felt as though that this would absolutely be an addition to my wellness that I can provide to not only men but women as well.
Okay. Yay.
Yes.
Y'all hear
so
that?
Trichology instructor.
Hair. She's a physical trainer. We're going to talk about the CBD products. You got a therapist here. So let's get into what is mental wellness. Like when you talk about mental wellness from a therapeutic standpoint, and then tell us a little bit what the brain does when you go to therapy and what the brain does when I take the CBD. What exactly is happening to my brain? Because I'm gonna promise y'all, when I felt something happening to my brain, and it was bizarre, but it was real. My neurotransmitters were all off or whatever. I don't know what that means. So y'all gonna break it down.
We're gonna break that down.
But I really felt it. So break that down for me from what you do as a therapist, what is happening to the brain when we're sitting there telling our story, talking about our trauma, going through that journey of authenticity. How does that process here?
Well, I think what happens is prior to even processing it, there's trauma that happens to us along the way. That from, nobody is born into this world unworthy. Right. Somewhere along the line, we get inundated with things that happen in our life that make us feel unworthy, make us feel not safe. And in those instances, our brain readjusts itself to be able to handle those things that are traumatic. We don't, the brain has to do something with that. When I was just reading Oprah's new book, and in there she talked about the trauma of being a little girl, being whooped and being sent off to church after she just had a beating. And your brain starts to realize that normalize trauma. And so sometimes people go on their whole life with a normalized sense of trauma. And then all of a sudden something triggers them to say, this is not okay. And the brain needs to be reprogrammed and redirected whether it's through therapy and through medical practices, to do something different with that trauma. And that trauma, and it doesn't have to be trauma. We always think of trauma as something, there is huge amounts of trauma, but could also be something that's traumatic to you. So something minor as a child. You have, 5 siblings, and there's one that's treated differently. That's somewhat traumatic to you. That causes you to think, now I got to work harder. Now I got to try to be like them. All the things that happen to us along the way create what our reactions to the world. And those things dictate how we give and receive love. That's why it's important to make sure that we're good up here when we get into relationships, when we get into marriages. Otherwise, we don't know how to handle ourselves, let alone the person sitting next to us. So it's really important that we take a look at all of those things. So when it comes to mental health, mental wellness, you don't have to have a mental illness. That's why we changed it from talking about mental illness, because when we think about mental illness, we think about the DSM diagnoses of, schizophrenia or really severe mental illness. Those things exist. But depression, anxiety, adjustment disorders, those are everyday things that we all experience and we all go through. And sometimes we need another ear to say, hey, have you thought about it like this? Sometimes it just takes a shift in perspective to get you back on track. You might not need medicine. You might not need anything but a shift in perspective.
When should somebody get therapy? Like, how do you know? It sounds like an easy question, but like, how do you know? I remember it was weeks and weeks and I was just like, something's not right.
When you feel something's not right.
And then they were like, take a nap, or somebody's, girl, do a shot of tequila. Like, if only feeling I can say it was like debilitating. It felt like my body was disconnecting from my brain.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I was separating from myself.
Yes.
But nobody can describe that to you. Right. So how do you know?
Well, whenever you're feeling like something is off, and it's probably before you get to the point of feeling like you were disconnected from your brain, was probably when you probably should have been sitting in some therapy. Therapy doesn't have to wait till there's a crisis. And I think that people think that we get into therapy when a crisis happens. There's preventative things that could happen. Therapy should really be used as a preventative measure. Right. You go to the doctor for preventative wellness checks, right? So why are we not going to mental health professionals for wellness checks?
Why are we not doing mental health screenings when we go for a physical exam? They're checking my heart, they're checking everything else. So why
do children have to go have a medical screening to get into school, but you can't, but you don't have you don't screen for mental health when you're getting ready to go to school? And I think all these kids should have been screened for mental health coming back into school after COVID.
Exactly.
All the things that they experienced. Sometimes you're home with the abusers for the last year and a half.
Right.
You're trapped at home. Sometimes you're
that's my phone. That's not yours.
I thought that was mine.
And it's on the thing. Okay. I don't know who would be calling me. We're on live. Hello. TheBrainTruth.com every Tuesday, 8 p.m. on intellectualradio.com. Okay, so go ahead. Sorry.
But anyway, so anytime that you're feeling off or you just feel like I need somebody to talk to.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons, and we'll talk about as we get into our stories, how I got into this is because I never wanted anybody to feel alone.
Oh.
And I felt like I was going to be that person that just listens, just is that ear that you can call and say, hey, I need to talk.
Okay, so we're gonna come back and we're gonna hear your story and Dr. Rita. But tell us about the brain and CBD.
Wonderful.
Because I want to eat some CBD.
You want to eat some of these gummies that we have right now?
Tell us what this does.
Right.
Go.
So CBD is an abbreviation for cannabidiol, and it is part of the cannabis plant, but it's the part that doesn't give you the high, doesn't give you the paranoia or the euphoria, but it puts you back in balance. And the way that you many times are feeling like you're not yourself, you're feeling a little anxious or maybe panicky or depressed or down, CBD has receptors in the brain that puts our body back in balance, that releases neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. Those are those transmitters that make us feel good, that helps us to sleep.
Okay, so the neurotransmitters are what again?
Serotonin and dopamine. Those are the two very important neurotransmitters that are responsible for mood. They're responsible for sleep. They're responsible for anxiety and depression if they are in low levels.
And how do they get to low levels?
They get to low levels. Chemical imbalances can happen for many reasons. It can be a physical trauma, it could be a chemical, it can be a nutritional deficiency, it can be a lack of endogenous or chemicals our bodies make that are deficient as well from just being exposed to trauma like this global pandemic, the separation that we've had, the inability to hug and to love. But there's so many theories on how they become low. But what's important is that CBD can actually put those receptors back in balance so that we feel better, so
And
that we
yes, they
sleep
do.
better.
Had them, and they do. So tell us what you brought, because I won't eat one of them.
I really brought some products that I feel are very, very helpful for mental wellness. And those are our tinctures. Tinctures are products that you place underneath the tongue twice a day. Tinctures take about 20 minutes to get into the bloodstream.
Okay.
But that is a great, great product to maintain that mood, to put those neurotransmitters in balance. Gummies. Gummies are really good. Gummies
now, this is the Delta 8
for sleep. Yeah, Delta 8 is one of the newer cannabinoids that really help with creativity. It helps with mood balancing. It helps with sleep.
This stuff helps with the world. The Delta 8 is the bomb. And you said this is for millennials are getting into it.
Yeah, millennials love Delta 8 because it is a very close cousin of Delta 9.
Okay.
So it will work with the brain and the mood, but it will also give you that clarity and focus and energy, creativity that millennials are looking for.
Okay.
And then the third product is the vape cartridge. And what I love about vaping CBD is that when you vape CBD, it gets into the bloodstream within 1 to 5 minutes. It gets fast results so that when you're using, I call it the trifecta, right? When you're using the trifecta, the tincture, the gummy, and the smokable vape, you're able to have a constant level of CBD in your body 24/7.
So when I take the gummy, half of it before I go to bed, and I sleep so peacefully. And I remind you, people who are experience mental wellness, we get anxious at night, and then when we wake up, the cortisol. I don't know, like when I would wake up, Sandra, it would just be like, like you feel like you're having a heart attack a lot, and that's because of the cortisol, right? Right. What is cortisol?
Well, cortisol is a stress hormone that happens when you're under a lot of stress. The adrenal gland will cause that cortisol to be high.
Okay.
But it will cause you to feel anxious. It will cause you to feel even drained. You know, when those adrenals are overworking.
You sleep a lot when you have,
And so sleep is very important. We all know that sleep deprivation can cause mood irregularities. It can cause depression. It can cause anxiety. It can cause all of those unhealthy mental feelings that we may have. So sleep is very important. So the gummies will help with the sleep, and the smokable vape will help for those acute situations.
Right.
You know, before we came on the radio show, you know, that vape really helped to really calm my nerves as well. And so these are just amazing products. So what I love about our product line is that we have a product line for those who have drug screens at their job.
That's what we need to know. Because I was talking to a friend who works for an airline, and they start saying they can't have CBD, and some of them need that as part of their therapy.
Right.
And so what is that drug, or what is that CBD that doesn't get in a drug test?
We have a broad spectrum CBD product, meaning that the THC content is less than 0.0%.
Okay.
These are products that you can safely use if you have drug screening at your home, at your job. So we have a tincture as well as a product that's for sleep that can safely be taken. If you want to show them that can safely be taken if you have urine drug screens.
These gummies are good, y'all. They taste so delicious. and they don't make you feel wiped out the next day. Like I wake up actually refreshed and happy.
You feel refreshed. You
Yeah.
feel happy because you've gotten sleep. And just know that CBD does come from the cannabis family, but the species is sourced from hemp. So hemp is a species of cannabis. It does not get you high. It gives you the health benefits without the high.
And they have hair care products.
We have hair care products because
um,
alopecia, again,
Yep.
is a pandemic. We are losing our hair. So we have hair care products for men and women. We have products for weight loss. We have detox products. We have bitters. We have essential oils. You know, essential oils are great to put in a diffuser to help to calm your nerves, to make you feel
seasonings.
We have seasonings.
Cook with it.
Right.
Rub it on your body.
We have butters. We have body butters.
That's,
you know, the skin is the largest
my body
organ in
butter.
our
I rub on
body.
it all day.
And so CBD is needed, you know, for those dry hands.
Didn't your daughter rub all the butter on her body? You
She
told
did.
me it was the cooking butter.
Vegan butter.
The vegan butter. She
like, thought it was body butter.
Well, she could have just licked it after
Who
that.
does that? Who puts body butter in their refrigerator?
Now I use this before I work out, and this helps me like literally quickly. So now,
yes,
I want to hear about your stories. What experiences and journeys have you both had with mental wellness that led you to want to be in this space to help others, to take this on? What, either one of you can go first. Tell me y'all story, because I'll be crying all the time. I'll be telling them all my business.
Well, in 2000, I went through the top 3 stressors that one can go through. I lost my mother.
Okay.
I lost my marriage. I went through a divorce. And I lost my job. I was working for what is now Saint. It's in Olympia Field.
St. James, St. Franciscan.
Yeah, Franciscan. Yeah. It used to be owned by another organization. Yes. This was like in 2000. It was 21 years ago. And so that was a time in my life that was the lowest time in my life. And I knew then that in being an OB-GYN, you know, I would hear stories from other women because women confide in their OB. But that was a time in my life that I could honestly say there was clinical depression that was going on for me. And so, again, I've always been interested in alternatives. I was trained at Wayne State School of Medicine, did my residency at Cook County. There absolutely is a role for pharmaceutical medications, right?
Right.
We're not saying that there isn't. But what I am saying, and was made proven to me, that there's an opportunity to have tools in your toolbox, to have holistic
options,
herbal options in your toolbox. And that's when I started meditating and getting more in prayer and using different herbs at the time to really address the top 3 stresses that I went through.
How are you doing now?
Oh,
how's your stress now?
Oh, my stress is minimal. My stress is minimal.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And I work out a lot. I use my CBD products, meditation and prayer.
So it's safe to say that we should incorporate preventative, like what you were saying.
Absolutely.
You know, it should just be a part of your life, people.
Yes.
Like, don't wait and be like, I don't need nothing, and ain't nothing happening to me, because what happened to me, I was just dilly-dallying around, and trauma came and knocked on my door and said, girl, bye, I'm coming for you. And so if we have a regiment of learning about these CBD products, waking up and exercising. Did you seek therapy? I
did.
And you got the therapy.
Yes.
And so, like we said, once you have an episode, you're going to speak to this. I'm not a professional, but I do know that I still have anxiety, but I have my toolbox, like Dr. Rita said.
Yes.
I still have, when I wake up sometimes, tachycardia. And I go, oh, I didn't take my gummy last night. Oh, let me go meditate. Or let me go walk. This morning I worked out on my little health writer thingy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you guys, what we're telling you now, we're not passing any judgment on nobody, and we're just telling you like how we do it.
And
Do it.
You know, it sounds like when you were in your lowest point, it was complicated grief. And it was loss after loss after loss. And so people don't understand that grief can be a trigger to, and if we don't grieve appropriately for the first loss, and then we get another loss on top of that, and another loss on top of that, we're now into complicated grief. And let me tell you about grief. People will tell you that there's stages to grief. I do not talk about grief like that, because the end stage, when in school we learn the stages of grief, people are looking for an end stage. You accept it, and now you're supposed to move on, and you're no longer supposed to be grieving. I don't talk about grief like that. I feel like grief is like, I talk about grief as those stages are really the emotions that come out during grief, and they can come at any point. 1 minute you can be sad, angry, all of those things that come along with the stages, those are just the emotions. And so what I talk about when I talk about grief is when those things first happen, it was like a tsunami. You know, when a tsunami comes, you're sitting there eating your dinner, and then all of a sudden you're 3 miles down the road. If you survive it, you're 3 miles down the road. Like, how did I get here? What's happening? You have to sit in those emotions when they come.
So tell us your story. Tell us about when your tsunami came.
Well, my tsunami, I feel like, has been a work in progress. And I alluded to this last week, that this career chose me. I was adopted at birth, and that already left me with this abandonment mentality. And then my mom and dad, who adopted me, loved them to death. I wouldn't be here without them. But my mom was emotionally unavailable. She had her own things going on. And I realized how emotionally unavailable was, and how I really needed to be doing this when I was in 8th grade. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she was making burgers on the stove, and they were burning. And I'm like, why is dinner burning? What are you doing, lady? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, what is happening? So I'm knocking on the bathroom door, and she is not answering. And I'm like, what is she doing in there? And so, I was a little bad in my day. So I knew how to put the credit card in the door and pop open the door, right? So I pop open the door, and she's in there cutting her wrist with a razor blade.
You witnessed your mom slashing her wrist.
Yes. And talking
how
about,
old were you
I was in
again?
8th grade. So what, 12, 13, something like that.
Okay.
And I remember just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Wow. And I immediately went into caretaking her, and I didn't even know what I was doing. But she kept talking about she wanted to go and be with her mother, who was deceased. And I had to get the razor blade out of her hand. I had to convince her to let me call somebody, because this was over my head at the time. I was like, you got to let me call somebody. And at the end of that, she did eventually let me call her sister. My dad came home. I think they called an ambulance. It was never talked about ever again. So here I am with all of this emotion, and I'm expected to caretake my mom, because I still had to watch her mental health. At that moment, I realized I have to watch her. And she would have panic attacks where I would hear her in her room, and my room was right next to her room. And I would know she needed me to run and get a paper bag so she could breathe into the paper bag to get her breath back. But we never talked about it. We never, ever, nobody ever got help. Nobody ever talked about it. And I remember feeling so alone that I couldn't talk about it to anybody, because we weren't talking about it. It meant I couldn't certainly talk about it to anybody. So it was one of those family secrets that kind of just got buried along the way. And that was probably when I really said, I have to do this. I just don't want anybody to ever feel alone like that ever in life.
So can we ask, how's your mom, or what happened?
My mom and dad are both deceased. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why I know about grief. I lost them 8 months apart. Okay. And I watched my dad. I was a daddy's girl. And so I watched him take his transition. And then my mom's cancer came back. And so I had to caretake her. And I remember she never resolved her issues, and why it's so important that you find somebody to talk to. When she was dying, and it was just me and her there. And I had to go into therapy mode again with her, because she said, why did your father cheat on me? She's dying.
Wow.
And she still wanted to know what she did wrong. And I had to explain to her that it wasn't about her, that it was him. And whatever he was searching for, needed, it had nothing to do with her. And that was a hard pill to swallow. But I had to spend my last few hours with my mother, helping her realize that my father did love her. He was there. Where was he when he died? He never left you. He never left us. He may have stepped out, and we all make mistakes. We all do things. But to know that she carried that around her whole life, that was why she was slitting her wrist.
Because the pain.
But the pain of my dad
and everything.
I mean, it was the little affair he had was bad. Like, the man showed up at our house with a shotgun.
Oh,
and my dad had his car parked in the back of the house. So the man wouldn't know we were there. And so I remember hiding under my dad and putting dressers in front of my door, like terrified that this man was going to come in and shoot our house up. I mean, I make it sound like I make it sound bad, but those were the little bitty things that happened in our family that nobody ever talked about. They just went away.
Processing it and talking. And that's cultural sometimes too.
Oh yeah.
That's cultural. We talk about the stigma. We talk about us as Black people and Christians and pray it away and blah, blah, blah. And we have to process things. We all experience. I mean, I had my situation with my marriage, those things are life altering.
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that story.
Welcome.
I mean,
you are welcome.
Well, that's a whole nother
I want to
conversation.
say about cultural, it crosses all cultural divides.
That's true too.
My parents are white. And Caucasian. And so that was kept secret there too. It's not just a, necessarily a racial thing. And I think that we have to understand that it crosses
cultural.
all
All
cultural divides. I was thinking about, found my birth family actually.
You
this
did?
last year, yes. And there were Mohawk Indians.
Oh,
so yesterday was
I'm Cherokee.
Yeah,
got Indian in our family.
So yesterday was Indigenous People Day,
Yeah.
which was extremely triggering for a lot of people in that culture.
Okay.
With the treatment that they've received, and just the idea that we flipped that from Christopher Columbus discovering America to he didn't discover us. We were already here. But
we have 5 minutes. If anybody wants to call in and ask anything, I know some people are calling my own phone. Don't call my phone. Call here, 708-223-8953. 708-223-8953. The phone lines are open if you want to ask any of the therapists or Dr. Rita about any of these products. I know I got a call the other day from a family member who was talking about how they're smoking a lot of weed. And from smoking weed, what's the difference between, I'm not trying to say y'all stop, but again, is there a difference? Of course, besides one being psychoactive, but is this better? Like for somebody who say that's some weak stuff. I can't do that. Oh, hold on for a minute. We got a call. We're going to answer that though. The Brain Truth. This is Allison, Dr. Rita, and Sandra. No, you got to keep those in.
Rita and Sandra and Allison. This is Nathan calling in.
Oh, hi, Nathan. How are you? Have a question for who?
I actually have a comment, question. I have everything. First of all, thank you for inviting me to tune into your podcast, Allison. It is so wonderful and refreshing to talk about issues that affects everyone, and that affects me as well. So I'll definitely be tuning in for more.
Thanks, Nathan.
Hopefully, I have a chance to tell my story.
Yes.
But it was very informative. I love the CBD advice. I'm just so excited to know that there's a community that I can relate to, being a professional, being a father, being a productive member of society, and still, dealing with my own mental wellness and, trying to be well because, my story is very in-depth.
Well, you have to be a guest on the show.
I love you dearly.
So do you have you ever used CBD? Are you in therapy currently, or what's going on?
I was in therapy. I went through, I had to be hospitalized. I went through the whole mental health crisis, and then I did get into therapy, but now I feel like it's like a cycle or a pattern where I get to a well state of mind and then I stop, then I focus on work, and then I can't handle it, and then I start backsliding and using other negative things to cope, So, I'm just trying to pull it back together. You know what I mean?
And it's important that you stay consistent with therapy. Even if you drop down to every other week or once a month, you want to maintain that connection with your therapist. You just like you do your primary care physician. You want to make sure that you do that, especially if you've been in a cycle of feeling better. And that's what happens a lot of times. We feel better and then we're like, oh, we don't need this anymore. But we do. You have to kind of think about it as you're treating your heart, your soul, your mind, just as well as you would your body.
Definitely.
And stay with a good therapist.
Yes.
So Sandra's a good therapist. You might want to go to my website, thebraintruth.com, and click on her picture and see if you can just get do you charge for like an intake from people?
No.
Just see if you can get like, what do you call it? An intake, or what do you call it?
You can just give me a call if you'd like. And I have, like I said, I have 5 therapists under me right now. And we really work hard at trying to make connections and meet you where you're at. Not all therapists do things the same way, which is why I started my own practice, because I want to do things my way. But all therapists are different. Some do they psychoanalyze you. I feel like we're just a supportive, nurturing environment, and your therapist should tell you what you need to hear in a nurturing, supportive way, because your friends tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
You don't need a therapist to tell you what you want to hear. You need one that's going to tell you the truth.
And then, so what about CBD? Have you ever tried CBD?
No, I have not. But from the description of it, it sounds like something I should definitely give a try. Because I was prescribed medication that dealt with serotonin levels in my brain to where they didn't get to a very low state that I would become like extremely depressed. So it's something like I think I should give a try.
Absolutely. We would love for you to try our products. And again, I speak about CBD as being a great, great tool in the toolbox. We want you to continue taking your medications as prescribed, but CBD can be used as an alternative, as an additional tool for our mental wellness. So yes, we'll give you that link so you can try our products, and that would be a great thing for you.
Yeah. Because,
Okay,
I was on antidepressants and I don't see the difference. And again, it's choice. I just didn't want to take antidepressants. That was just me. And when I titrated off under the supervision of a psychiatrist, Dr. Rita introduced me to the CBD. And for me, it's giving me the same type of comfort, the same type of effect, the calmingness. When I'm nervous, when I wake up and I have that, I chew, and it's delicious. Did I tell y'all it's delicious? It's so good.
And I was really happy, Allison, when I heard that your psychiatrist was working with you.
Yes.
Knowing that was your goal. Your goal was to titrate under a physician's supervision to get off of meds and to use other alternatives for her mental wellness. So that's another thing. You want to make sure that you're working with a physician, with a therapist that is willing to work with your needs and your desires.
All right. Thank you, Nathan. And I have some samples, so call me. I can let you do a little taste of a gummy and then you'll order your own. All right, guys. Phenomenal. Well, do we have any time for another call? We don't have no time for another call. I do. If you guys want to call in, call me, 708-223-8953. Do I have any time for one more call? Call. We'll take it. In the meantime, in between time, are there any closing thing you guys want to talk about? Anything you want to say in this whole spectrum of wellness and to the people that's listening?
Well, I just want to say before Sandra says something that
here, look at yourself.
Oh,
I
think that I see myself. I didn't know I was supposed to be looking here. I didn't know. There's so many cameras. Wait, there's like
everywhere,
5
honey.
cameras in
honey,
here.
We everywhere, honey.
I didn't know where to look.
We everywhere.
Speaking of a holistic way of addressing your mental wellness is so key. And again, I want to reiterate the importance of having additional tools in your toolbox. We understand that there is absolutely a role for pharmaceutical medications when we're dealing with any challenge in our life, our heart, our lungs, our kidney, our brain. But what we do want to offer in this show, and what you're going to hear and see in this Brain Truth show, is holistic ways of addressing mental wellness, be it spiritual, be it physical, be it mental, pharmaceutical, and even herbal. So I want to thank you, Allison, for allowing me to be a part of the Brain Truth.
The brain game.
The brain game.
We got to get us a brain game
Right.
symbol.
Because this is so needed for all of us to understand. That.
Yep.
So thank you.
I want to say thank you as well. I'm really excited about being part of this project. And I'm just thinking about how to incorporate this product into what we do. It's so important to have a holistic approach, and working with psychiatrists or even the primary care physician. It's really important that we collaborate along the way with what we're doing. We don't want to work in silos. So a good therapist is going to collaborate with, they're going to say, who's your psychiatrist? Who's your primary care physician? We need to be collaborating and having those conversations. Sometimes behavioral health, mental health professionals have been left out of those conversations. But we are trying to really assert ourselves into those conversations and have people really connect us with who their other providers are. So we're all on the same page with treatment.
Now, you said something really deep. You said you're considering incorporating CBD into your practice.
Yes.
Now, I know that psychiatrists can prescribe medication. Can you, under Brita, or how does that work if you want to offer this? So
CBD is not a prescribed.
So you can literally recommend this,
just like
to your patients.
Probably recommends. Yes. You probably recommend.
Like I recommend for anxiety. We were just talking about weighted blankets.
Weighted blankets
are the best thing for anxiety. That's your tip of the day.
Tell them what a weighted blanket is.
A weighted blanket is a blanket that literally has weight in it, and it's 15 pounds. They say you're supposed to go like 10 pounds, half of your weight plus 10 pounds or something. Okay. I don't remember what the actual number is, but when you sleep under that, it kind of relaxes your body. It makes you feel like you're safe and secure. That's what it's like you're swaddled almost, right? Yes. And swaddling is, and hopefully in another show when we talk about marriage counseling, I'll talk about swaddling, but that is how you feel safe. A baby feels safe when they're swaddled, and that the pressure of that blanket. And I thought I wasn't going to like it because of the heaviness, but I love it. I almost can't sleep without
my
it.
weighted blanket.
I have a weighted blanket as well.
Yeah, it's the best.
I love my weighted blanket so much. It got a hole in it, and all them little things start falling out. So I just I just sewed it back up.
Yeah. So there's no need for writing a prescription for CBD.
No, I'd love to have this in my office for people to say, hey, you know how you go to the hair salon and you have all different products you can pick from? Let's have CBD in my
goodness.
You saw my office.
Can we just do the snap up?
Office is beautiful.
Thank you.
And she's
that is so brilliant.
CBD in her office.
Yes.
And so again,
another tool,
everybody. So we need a 2-hour show. Earl, can I get a 2-hour show? We got to make it happen because we still got a whole bunch of stuff. I want a gummy. Can I get a gummy?
Yes, you can have
which one can I eat?
I want the Delta 8?
No, I don't want the Delta 8.
Or you want the broad spectrum?
I want that one.
Okay, you want
this one? Can I eat it right now? When I close out, I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat some of this gummy. Sandra, taste this.
I'm going to.
I'm going to eat half of one just so I can.
This is the.
You want to try one, Earl? Earl, I'm telling you, it's delicious. Give one to Earl. Earl needs this because he works hard. And you don't need to just have the gummy, Dr. Rita. Okay. Do you need to just have the gummies when you have anxiety, mental? But this is just good for somebody who may not have mental wellness issues.
CBD is good for inflammation, for pain, for sleep, for sex, for libido, for reducing blood sugar levels, for helping cholesterol levels, hair growth. Right. CBD is an anti-inflammatory. There's so many medicinal benefits for CBD. It's just not for mental wellness.
There you go.
So what kind of?
Yeah,
I need you to come educate my staff.
Yes,
we're going to do it. They can all promote this.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Brain Truth at intellectualradio.com and iHeart. Next week, we're going to have some incredible guests. We're going to be talking to a young man who was shot twice in the head, who's blind, and whose wife died and left him with 7 children. and he's going to come in here and talk about his journey. I may have to bring you back, Sandra or Emily, because he's going to need a helping hand.
Absolutely.
But we're going to get into that next week. So
Okay.
tune in. Go to thebraintruth.com every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central Standard, intellectualradio.com. Thank you. Thank you, Earl.
Thank you, Earl.
See you next week, everybody. We love you. We love you.